it's not going to pass. But I've been saying this for a while now, just like same-sex marriage. When enough states passed same-sex marriage, eventually the federal government had to recognize it, which is why now people in same-sex marriages are able to file for green cards and adjust their status. The same thing's going to happen with marijuana. I've been saying it for the last 4 years. It's not going to happen this year, but for the first time in congressional history, we're getting closer. The House of Representatives voted to pass a measure that would decriminalize marijuana use at the federal level. Now, I'll tell you why I'm excited, Yo-Yo and Vanessa. It's not because I smoke weed. I don't. Okay, so let's make it clear why Uncle Brad is excited. It's not because I smoke. Why is Vanessa going? I don't smoke weed, Vanessa. I don't.
It might not be you. I don't know.
All right. So, but maybe other people on the crew may be excited. But but nevertheless, I'm excited for our clients because as part of the bill that was passed by the House of Representatives, it's not going to pass the Senate, and even if it does, Trump's not going to sign it. But it's good news for maybe in a year or 2 years. We have members, a Democratic House, a very close Democratic Republican Senate. Perhaps a few senators like to, light it up every so often, and they'll say, you know what, why not? Let's pass marijuana. I believe Biden would sign it. And why it's important, but it's important right now because it's the first time that a federal House or the Senate has ever passed a bill to decriminalize marijuana. The vote was 228 to 164 and included 5 Republicans voting in favor of the measure. Now, Gerald Nadler, who is co-sponsoring the bill, he said that the legislation would reverse the failed policy of criminalizing marijuana on the federal level and would take steps to address the heavy toll this policy has taken across the country, particularly on communities of color. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, also a Democrat, she did agree. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, the majority of marijuana users do not use harder substances. Even Representative Matt Gaetz, who's a big Trump supporter, he also co-sponsored the bill. He said he would vote for the bill because the federal government has lied to the people of this country about marijuana for generations. Now, why does that help? Obviously, we want to decriminalize things that are not hurting others. Honestly, marijuana were to cause cancer, so do cigarettes. They're legal. You don't want to get behind the wheel of, smoking weed. Well, you know what? We decriminalized alcohol. That's a lot worse, getting the wheel. I don't see the purpose. I think it's actually hypocritical that these other things are legal and marijuana is not. And it has destroyed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people's lives. Not the actual drug itself, but the policing of it. The policing of it. And so many young men and even women have been deported. Families have been separated just from an immigration perspective. Now, what's important about this bill, which is not going to be law, but maybe in a year or two they'll bring it back. Part of the bill was that they would expunge or give an avenue. I don't know the exact mechanism in the bill because I didn't read the actual language. I just read about it. But there would be a mechanism in the bill for people to be able to expunge their convictions. And if the conviction is expunged and the federal government does not recognize marijuana as a drug, then you have an expunged record and you have a drug offense. You have a drug offense even if it's expunged or not expunged, and quite frankly, would no longer be inadmissible because the federal government doesn't criminalize it. And if that would be the case, logically, you would say that many, many men and women who have drug offenses, even if you have a offense to be a 45-year-old guy, and 25 years ago, you were walking down the street and you and your friends were smoking a joint. A joint! I'm not talking about a bag of weed. I'm not talking about a trunk of weed. A joint. And you got arrested, just stupid. You're walking around the street, the cop didn't like you. That prevents you from ever entering America again.
Yeah.
Without a waiver. So that bars you for smoking a joint when half of America smokes every day. So that's how hypocritical it is. So, all of these cases would now be reviewed and a lot of people would have perhaps, good immigration results. I've done consultations where I told people in the last few years, I said, stay tuned, it's going to happen. I just felt it. This is the first start of it.
I'm actually very happy about this. I actually have a friend from Kenya who has a visa, I believe, and she actually has, an illness to where like she has to smoke, and it kind of like calms the pain. And she's scared to do that, because like she's not doing it for fun. She's literally doing it because of her sickness. But she's scared because she feels like if she gets caught, she'll get deported. So like I like this, for so many reasons. It's not just to get high and have fun.
Do you know when you go to a doctor for your medical exam before you go for your immigrant visa, the doctor always asks, do you smoke marijuana? And if you say yes, or if they make you pee in a cup, or if you say, well, I did 10 years ago, but I don't do it now, do you know they mark off drug abuser? And you get denied. You get denied for your green card.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
happens. I did not know that.
It happens. Meanwhile, yesterday, the New York Times reported that as recently as this summer, the Justice Department investigated a top fundraiser for Donald Trump and a lawyer for his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, in a suspected scheme to offer a bribe in exchange for pardons. You knew this was coming, right? The most crooked administration. Guy loves giving pardons. He gives pardons like he drinks a glass of water. Right?
I don't know if he even does that.
I don't even know if he does that. Or whatever he does. Well, he gives pardons like he eats a cheeseburger. I don't know, whatever.
There you go.
But I mean, you knew this was going to happen. And by the way, just my gut feeling. I have no idea. I got nothing on him. I got nothing. My gut feeling, it's tip of the iceberg. Tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of people who are paying lots and lots of people for pardons right now, right before Trump leaves.
Crazy. That's wild. It's just corrupt.
The only time they're going to get...
And I have no evidence of this. I have as much evidence of that as Trump has of election fraud, which is nothing. I don't have evidence of it. Just my supposition.
Your inkling?
It's my inkling. My inkling.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, President-elect Joe Biden, he says when he becomes president January 20th, mask up. He's going to ask every American as of January 20th, the day he is inaugurated, to wear a mask for 100 days. That will take us into February, March, the end of April. By then, many Americans will have vaccinated. If people wear masks for 100 days from January 20th to the end of April, they believe that they would save more than 70,000 lives, and hundreds of thousands of people would avoid having to go to the emergency room. He also offered Dr. Anthony Fauci a promotion. Not only is he going to be the coronavirus czar, but he is going to be chief medical advisor under the Biden administration.
I trust him, yeah. And I feel like if this administration actually enforced that same rule, a lot more people would be alive.
Yes.
The fact that they shut down the whole United States for the amount of months that they did and did not enforce masks, I thought it was just real backwards. So like, I feel like if this administration or this Trump had enforced masks on top of doing the shutdown, we would have a lot less cases. So I'm happy that he's doing this. I know a lot of people are mad, but
Trump's got death on his hands. So that was his promotion.
Nice. Good.
According to statistics from the Johns Hopkins University, there are now over 66.5 million coronavirus cases in the United States. 14.2 million people have died. Another record today of people hospitalized for COVID-19, more than 100,000 people in hospitals receiving treatment. California's governor announced a regional stay-at-home order in areas facing ICU bed shortages. In the United Kingdom, however, the first shipments of the Pfizer vaccine arrived, and countries including France and Portugal plan to vaccinate in the coming weeks. However, the Department of Homeland Security warns that hackers are targeting key actors in the coronavirus supply chain as distribution gets away. And if you have a Carnival cruise scheduled, you may want to check on it. The cruise giant has canceled all remaining cruises through February, and that sounds pretty smart, right? I wouldn't want to go on a cruise right now. Meanwhile, it is Friday, guys.
Yes, it is.
And Hollywood Auction got a little crazy recently when a buyer shouted out that they would pay $368,000 for the Rudolph and the Santa Claus figures used in the beloved Christmas special, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Bidding for the figures
I remember this.
They were supposed to go between $150,000 and $200,000, but it actually went for $368,000. Figures were among several used to make the 1964 stop-motion animation television special. They're actually Rudolph is 6 inches tall, and 11-inch tall Santa were made in Tokyo of wood, wire, cloth, and leather.
Wow.
And they paid how much did they pay? $368,000, which is $367,995 more than I would have paid for it. It's worth about $5. What do you think?
Watch that growing up? That was like from I watched that growing up. That's like legendary, low-key.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I loved the Christmas specials. They would always come on. There was Rudolph. Yeah. There's Frosty the Snowman.
And the miser.
The miser, right? Who was I'm Mr. Hot, I'm Mr. Cold, right? Remember that one?
Yeah.
That was I'm Mr. Hot, I'm Mr. Cold. I remember. I'm bringing back. I'm bringing back my memory. What'd you say, Julian? I'm sorry. Yeah, the year. Yes, it was the year without a Santa Claus. Right, all of those. Yeah. Listen to this one. Okay, there's a new record. Okay, a new record. I'm going to give you a riddle, guys. There is a mere 18-month age gap between a proud new mom and her baby. How is the mom, 28 and a half years old, only have a 1.5-year difference between the baby? How does that happen? Technically, it was an embryo that was frozen 27 years ago. And now there has been a record. Molly was the child. Gibson is the mother. Tina was born in April 1991. And Molly was frozen in October 1992. She stayed in a frozen stated embryo. Now, an embryo is the sperm and the egg are together. So it's not just a frozen egg. It is a egg.
It's like the actual.
The sperm and the egg are together, and they grow it for a few days in a petri dish, and then they freeze it.
Wow.
Yeah. And
it worked.
And 27 years later, this child is born. Now, remarkably, Molly's October 26th arrival broke the previous record held by her sister Emma Wren, who spent 24 years on ice before her delivery in November 2017. The embryos were frozen together and are full genetic siblings. They were thawed nearly 3 years apart at the National Embryo Donation Center before their respective transfers into Tina's uterus. Since they were donated anonymously, nobody knows who the biological parents are.
Wow.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
I didn't even know they could do that back in the 90s.
Yeah, I didn't know that you could freeze an embryo. Yeah, like that.
You could definitely freeze it. And they were doing it. Yeah, they were doing it back in the 90s. But in the 90s, the technology wasn't there. You know, and they're freezing them now, but they must have much better technology now than they had in the 1990s. So it's very surprising.
So were they just freezing it?
These babies lived. You know, it's like when you think about it, you're like, oh my God, can you imagine if there's the electric went out or something, and then these embryos would unfreeze. I mean, and look, these are living beings.
Right.
Right.
Oh yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah. One man is taking his quarantine project to a whole new level. Sean LaRochelle of Napa Valley, California, reconstructed Disneyland's Matterhorn Bobsleds ride in his backyard. Sean started building this 2-story roller coaster towards the end of March and completed it in July. He said, "I always wanted to build a ride, and Disney rides are always special to me because they're themed. They tell a unique story." LaRochelle's YouTube video reveals that he incorporated all the important details that bring the Matterhorn story to life. The single-passenger car passes through shadowy caves, snowy chutes. I've been on that.
Yeah, I grew up going on this.
I've been on that. That is scary. That is in the animal kingdom, and you go up, and you go on this very lovely ride, and you're like, oh, everything's wonderful, everything's great, what a beautiful scenery. And then all of a sudden, hell breaks loose. The thing starts going backwards. You're screaming like crazy, and all of a sudden, this big monster, the abominable snowman, comes out and scares the hell out of you.
Yeah.
I'm never going on that. That scared the hell out of me. I screamed when he jumped at me. I would never go on that ride again.
Brad?
I'm still in shock from that one. That was about 20 years ago I did that. I'm still talking about it. I remember. I'm like, oh, it's a very lovely ride. There's nothing wrong going on here. And then all of a sudden everything, all hell breaks loose.
All hell breaks loose. Yeah, that was one of my favorite rides in Disneyland. You know, I grew up going to Disneyland. I'm from LA, so we grew up having year passes every year. So that's pretty awesome.
All right.
My family never built one in my backyard.
No, I wouldn't even know how to build one. I mean, he's got to be a very talented guy to be able to build that, right?
Yeah, that looks awesome. Look at that.
Yeah.
What?
I wouldn't even. I couldn't even build the
bridge. It even
bridge.
has the waterfall.
I couldn't even build the bridge. What?
That's using your quarantine time efficiently. That's what that gentleman did.
That is pure boredom. That is like pure boredom. They're like, I've watched Tiger King now 100 times. I can't watch this Tiger King anymore. You know what I'm gonna do?
Let's build a roller coaster.
Let's build a roller coaster. Exactly. Thanks for watching. For more Brad Show Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.